And we're in. And we're greeting you with D-Boy, West Coast Uncensored, Cash App. If you can give, please do. Definitely my lead in the last few times, not trying to be rude, just things cost money, things cost time. And definitely if this has been a blessing to you and a benefit and you feel led and your heart speaks to you, please, that would be great. That would definitely be something we would love for you to participate in. All right. With the work I do here, I think I do definitely do some solid work in what we do here, and definitely have to say, how about that last episode of taking a little trip in the wild side and looking at a tree that was told not to touch, but when we really reverse engineer, it was blocking you from waking up. It was a tree you needed to touch. It was a tree you needed to wake up to. And it was a tree that once you touched it and partook of it, it would open you up to another tree, the tree of life. Because you would end up seeing the differentiation, using your gnosis, your discernment. It would elevate you into your source of who you are, the light being that you are. And then the tree of life would be the next connection to it. Yeah, boy, you talk about there's a song by a group called The Who. Definitely classic rock. The Who was around maybe middle 60s. Definitely been around a while. Roger Daltrey, Pete Townsend, Keith Moon, another great drummer who passed. But they have this song that was on their NCIS, and so we don't get fooled again. I suggest you go look at those lyrics, and you'll go, "Oh my gosh, what were they telling us about what's going on now?" Oh yeah. Even if we're getting a little bit of this, right? Getting into a little bit of this before we get into this. I got a good one for you today. Another one. Back to our goddess series. Right, back to our feminine aspect series. I mentioned some of the other women that in history that sprinkled the earth in all continents, every four corners of this plane. And we got another one today that I looked into, looked into, and there's actually another part of her, and it's Guanyin. It is it's actually an Asian goddess. And that comes from Buddhism, believe it or not. Yes. Definitely. This is very deep in Guyan's aspect of even some miracles happening, even them blocking war and attacks on the regular people, where they were going to the soldiers were told by the government, shoot them and kill them all, and then their triggers wouldn't work. Their guns wouldn't work, and then they seen something behind the people in the temple and ran off. And many of the people who were there says it was Guanyin. But anyways, let's get into this story as our talking about the return of the goddess, or the return of the feminine aspect. Definitely, and it's something within. Because I tell you, on a spiritual tip, the men are protectors in the physical, because we're physically more strong, but there's something with that spiritual aspect of the protection of the spiritual aspect and that spiritual plane that women, the feminine aspect. Again, we have to differentiate between physical and that. Maybe that's it's in women and men, feminine and masculine. This is a higher consciousness, not of that once you try to put in the lower and say, see, when no, you're not seeing, right? Just to differentiate. This is a platform of using for experience, revelation, gnosis, and higher consciousness. And a lot of people that come here are attracted or growing in this or understanding this, and this is being unveiled to them within. Unfolded, manifolding the wisdoms within themselves. But the feminine aspect is a very, very something that's been suppressed by the patriarchy to stay in power, and the abuses go with it. And we've seen that, and connected to every feminine aspect of that. We even see the spiritual aspects, where the man aspect is the logic, and the logic needs to find his wife, the spiritual aspect, to be enlightened. Even then, the logic comes a higher logic. And it's a balance for the feminine aspect to have logic too. But the two become one. But anyway, so we're going to get into again, another feminine goddess, another feminine aspect, powerful, that comes from a very great place. And we're going to get into share the screen. Let's get going on this one. Sharing is caring for this one. Well, anyways, it's funny because there's this movie when I see the first part. Guanyin or Guanyin is a beloved East Asian Buddhist bodhisattva of compassion, often revered as the goddess of mercy. Originating from Sanskrit, Avalokiteshvara, and I could be slaughtering that word, she symbolized boundless compassion, hearing the cries of the world, rescuing those in trouble. She is frequently depicted as a woman in white robes, seated on a lotus or with 1,000 arms and eyes, representing ability to aid many. Key aspects of Guanyin. She holds a willow branch for healing, a lotus flower for purity, or a vase of water compassion. Role. She's believed to provide protection, and this is what I was talking about, because there's actually stories of this that I've seen and read about and listened to in the videos of her actually intervening and stuff, because this would be, when nothing else works, called Guanyin. In that she always shows. That she would show up and stop and calm the storm so boats could pass that had refugees or people in them, so it wouldn't be overturned when it looked like the days were set, they were going in the ocean. They would call on Guanyin. Soldiers were coming to do an onslaught of just the regular people, kill them. Mass murder ordained by a government. Who else would do that? And Guanyin, or blocked it, and they seen her. Their weapons didn't work. They ran from the temple like they seen something that scared the hell out of them. Well, many of the people then that were in the temple and looked and seen her, that did see her in the reported incidents, said she appeared in a huge, like a white robe, with this look of definitely. And why saying this? Because when you look at this, this is why I would say her role is believed to provide protection, because the feminine aspect in the spiritual plane has the power to protect. Or the physical, it's opposite. It's usually the other way around. Right? Alleviate suffering, assist in childbirth, child sending Guanyin, helps souls reach the Pure Land. Worship. Her main birthday is celebrated on the 19th of the second lunar month. Popular in China, Japan as Canaan, Korea, Guanyin, and Vietnam. Legend. Some traditions trace her to a legendary princess named Mio Shan, who practiced compassion despite her father's cruelty. He wanted her to marry. The story, I think, with her is he wanted her to marry. She wanted to go be a Buddhist, go through the training. They made it very difficult on her through her training, to the fact that they really put the pressure on her, but she was able to go through it and succeed. And through that succeeding, she was definitely relation to Avalokiteshvara, and I know I'm slaughtering that. Sorry, you guys. I don't mean to. Through the Indian root is masculine. The deity was localized in East Asia, widely adopted as a feminine mother goddess figure, reflecting the feminine qualities of mercy and nurturing. Significance. Guanyin is often compared to the Virgin Mary in Worcester culture for her role as loving, maternal intercessor. She's considered the most widely beloved Buddhist divinity and highly respected in both Buddhist and Taoist traditions. And Taoist tradition definitely is another aspect of Asian tradition, but it's not Buddhism. The Tao, or the Tao, if you know the book, you can read. We'll even look at some pictures and some of the things. Guanyin is an Eastern Asian bodhisattva of compassion and is widely revered as the goddess of mercy. Her name is sort of a Guanyin, which translates to the one who perceives the sounds of the world, signifying her readiness to hear and answer the cries of those in distress. So they would say with that, even that last part, cries of that when you needed her, she would be there instantly. Whether to protect, guide, and help with even childbirth as that, or guide over a dangerous situation like being in a boat being capsized. A lot of reports of her showing up and stopping things that happened were actually the ones who came to do the violence would look and actually seen her and even said this is what they seen. They were scared. I'll use the word shitless. They left, and then many of them that prayed for her said they seen her. And you will even see this is while regionally depicted as a male Indian bodhisattva, Avalokitesvara, I hope Guanyin's image transformed in China around the 12th century into a feminine figure, which is heavy. The transformation, reflecting cultural associations of mercy with motherhood, womanhood. She is unique for having reacted the brink of Buddhahood, but vowing to remain in a moral realm to help all the sentient beings achieve enlightenment. Key attributes of the symbol: boundless mercy. She's believed to have 1,000 arms, 1,000 eyes, to see better, to reach out to everyone suffering in the world. Which is really heavy is, in the story, it didn't matter if you were Buddhist, it didn't matter what you were. If you called upon her, she was there to help. That's why 1,000 eyes, 1,000 arms, for anyone suffering in the world. It didn't matter who you were, what race, where you were at. Many would use this. There was many saved from things that actually still pay homage to her. Wildly held down as far as Western thinking, unless you deep dived into it, but obviously she was there. There's even a story of how Buddhism failed in the place it originated in, which was India, because it was reluctant to transform. But when it transformed in everywhere else, Buddhism became the main thing without ever drawing sword or war, unlike many religions in the Middle East. Yeah, even the religions we have been connected to. Those Abrahamic ones, which everything was a sword and war. This was done without the sword and war. But it changed. It didn't last in India because it would not transform. It stayed the same when it was needed to change or transform. But when it went to other parts of Asia, it transformed. She's the 1,000 arms, willow branch and water jar, commonly depicted holding a willow branch to sprinkle the nectar of life, divine wisdom. Sophia. Sophia means wisdom, the divine and healing from the sacred vase. Protector of women, she is frequently worshipped as a patron of mothers, often depicted with a child, and believed to grant children grant children to those who desire them. The legend of Miao Shan, the popular folk legend, tells of a princess named Miao Shan who sacrificed her eyes and arms to heal her father, eventually transforming into the divine Guanyin. I love the story. Definitely the myth. Prominent statues and locations, Guanyin's presence in a staple of Buddhist temples, gardens, homes throughout East and Southeast Asia. Guanyin of Nanshan, Sanya, China, a massive 108 meter, 352 feet, three-sided statue overlooking the South China Sea, symbolizing a role of protector of the sea and its travels. See, that would go with Mary, because that's all connected to the sea. Mary means marine, right? Maritime law. Same. This is why when I'm saying when we start looking at these other cultures, you will always find that because I was thinking. I went through a lot of the ones I haven't talked to, but in the video when I said video made a return of the goddess, right? The return of the goddess, how this was everywhere. It wasn't one place. It wasn't just this. We seen it with I'm even looking to it even now in my study, looking at the feminine goddesses connected to Norse. I'm going to get into Norse mythology and bring this out even more mythology, and how this has been connected in this reality. So when we look at this, the sea is also childbirth. The sea of a woman, right? She breaks her water, childbirth comes. The sea that we know this even goes if you don't understand maritime law. This is all connected to the banking system. What are banks? They're connected to the water bank. Where you have the water bank and the flow of the sea is connected to the bank. And what is it called? Liquid assets or money, which is connected to Mooney, which is connected to the aspect of money. Mount Puto, Putotao. It's called Putao, not Puto. Spanish, that's not a very nice word. Putao, we're going to call it China. One of 4 sacred mountains of Buddhism, traditionally considered the dwelling place or principal site for Guanyin worship. Wat Hai Mi Cheng Ching-ra, Thailand, known for the towering white 9-story statue of Guanyin, is often mistakenly called the Big Buddha by visitors. Mistakenly. The thing is, what I really learned about finding out about her, in many places she's adored and actually above Buddha, more than Buddha. Just being honest, a lot of people, when I found that out, I was like, wow. How P. Kang, and notice this is even the same thing as I'm going to go to Christianity with Buddha and Guanyin is Sophia and Jesus in the Gnostic story. Sophia is just a part and place. The feminine aspect has to be Mary Magdalene being a part, the embodiment of the Eon Sophia. Known for a towering white 9-story, right, the big Buddha by the visitors. Then Malaysia, Kilok Sea Temple, Pejang, Malaysia features a 300.2 meter bronze statue of Guanyin housed under a massive pavilion attracting pilgrims from across the region. Let's look at some if we can see them, if they're here. I don't see them now. Oh, here. We're going to look at some of her pictures and stuff. Let's look at this. This is some of her, definitely her pictures. See if it can go this way. There's the, it said she had 1,000 eyes, 1,000 arms, so she was not short where she could help at, right? This is her. I've seen her more like this in some of the videos I've seen about her, but very, very, any more? I know there's some back that I might want to see. Oh, here, images. There we go. Some of the images. So this is some of the images they had of her. You might know about the goddess of mercy. She's the one, her name trance is the one who hears and cries of the world. Her water vase and willow branch are significant. She also sometimes depicted with a child. You might see her with a fish basket. Very good, great, really art. And this is her. Actually, I really found out that you might even see her in some other things. If you go and you might check out some restaurants, right? And you might say Chinese or Asian restaurants, Thai restaurants, if you like Thai food, that you might even see her. But anyways, yeah, you would see her in these places of being there. I seen her like on the cartoons on the flow, more like this, which was very good art. Which is very old story too, myth. But anyways, yeah, who would have thought it? And then let me go back. There's something I want to say to AI and ask about her. Um, Let me see. Let's go back here. There's something else I wanted to ask. I wanted to see it through AI. Gosh, through the AI part when we got back there. Okay. Listen, I want to ask her one thing about do you know what a bodhisattva is? Look, you may not know. Oh, what? Sorry about that. Let's look at what is a. If you don't know, let's look at this. There's a song. There's actually a song about bodhisattva from the 70s. Bodhisattva is a being on the path to becoming a Buddha who's motivated by extreme compassion, seeks to attain enlightenment from the benefit of all sentient beings. The world comes from the Sanskrit word bodhi, awakening or enlightenment is what it means. So it's kind of on the road to being that, and it goes through different ones, different perspectives. Thought very interesting. Let's go back. We'll go out now. So very interesting that we would look and see this, that the feminine aspect of this was not just in the West. The West was preceded by the East, right? You know that, right? The East was very ancient, preceded by the East. And when you go through a lot of these stories, whether it's through the Greeks or through Persephone, or you go through Egypt and you go through Isis, and even into the Norse, which I'm going to even touch on some of these other goddesses from this, and touch on them. Which is really the feminine aspect within you, right? The awakening of that which is within you that's maybe been asleep or even suppressed. You'll notice there's these things that keep aligning, that it's similarity. I've seen the thing with Mary and Guanyin. Guanyin was very much like Sophia, Mary Magdalene in the story. The connection of the inner, and I forgot to ask a question. Man, I forgot to ask a question I was going to ask of the popularity, but I had heard the popularity of her in many Asian places surpassed that of Buddha, but she was a bodhisattva, and so when you start looking at and you see what a bodhisattva is, almost like in training to become a Buddha, and the word that is enlightenment, right? Very interesting, a lot of knowledge, a lot of ancient knowledge right there. That's very, very, what would you call it, deep, showing the familiarity of very much these stories, even though they would be in different parts of the world, would either transcend the world, or the frequency and vibration was telling you the same story, whether they connected they had a connection in the storytelling, or even in a literal physical connection with each other, that the same frequency and vibration that was out there in knowledge and wisdom was being in the field, was in different places at the same time, even though they may not even interact with each other at the same time. Right? I talked about a lot of the women aspect of it is in every culture. When we really went to a full patriarch, were, and I'm going to call it's not divine patriarch is what we see. It's used for power, control, and mindset, what we see. suppressing the feminine aspect, because if you suppress the feminine aspect, who is actually the protector in the spiritual realm, guess what you don't have? You can alienate and have rituals for getting rid of the care, right? What's a ritual? We actually went over the ritual that happens every year in up Northern California at what's the name of that place they go to every year? All the elite men go there. It's really alienated to men, not women. Cremation of care, Bohemian Grove. And I believe, without a shadow of a doubt, when they use that cremation of care, it's cremation of care with the owl there next to it. When they do it, it's trying to delete the feminine aspect where nobody cares. And if nobody cares, you just walk around in a very careless, unsympathetic, lack of empathy. You're dealing with a PNC world that nobody really cares what happens. And really the system, as you know, doesn't care. If you don't know that, you got to know this. People can care. Family can care. Individuals may care. And there's a lot of people who don't care. And the system, the machine, does not care. Does not care. So why the return of the feminine aspect is to delete all this, is to say no. Protection. And the activation. Sometimes I would get in the physical and see what's happening in the physical aspect of this when we look at what's happening in the world of the lack of births, the lack of marriages. The men and women in the physical have never been so separate. That's a fact. That's what's happening here in the world. But then I really do think this is really just the shadow part of the divine feminine, which is called feminism, which really isn't femininity at all. It's bad masculinity. But we really haven't seen, and I've said this multiple times, divine even masculine yet. This is not divine masculine, which we've been beholding for millennium, 2 millenniums, 3 millenniums, maybe more. Iron Age, possibly. Whatever it is, because there was a time that there was feminine power, and it wasn't isolated. It was a gathering, even for understanding that the divine masculine was needed, because men are physically in the physical plane are builders. But the respect of both being one was the premises of it, until the overthrow, which wouldn't doubt if it was after a cataclysm, when it needed to be rebuilt, and men are the rebuilders. And maybe these men said, well, why are we not running this when we're the one that keeps building it? Going back into their lower realm of thinking, which gets a lower, not deity aspect of the masculine patriarchy, which we see from Rome and what comes with that. But anyways, what I wanted to really show here was the divine feminine was everywhere. From the east to the west, to the north, to the south. And when I find more, I'm going to share more. I thought this was very fantastic. I came across this when I was actually looking at Sophia. And I was looking at Sophia, and I asked a question to AI. I go, what is the equivalent of Buddhism to the feminine aspect with Sophia? And this is what I got. So looking into things, seeing things, studying things, looking through things, reading things, and being able to sit and listen and get instructed is very heavy. And you can see it's getting a little dark here. My background is very dark. Second video of the day I did. The one that was before this is the one I did. But anyways, getting ready to close out right now. Thank you guys. Let me share something real quick. What I started with. Let me just share. Please, if you could. I put a lot of time, and I just would really appreciate anybody who would be part of this, would be so appreciated within the time frame of how I do put work into this. This isn't just like, oh, I roll out of bed and do it. I have to study. I have to look at it. I do a lot of listening. I do a lot of getting things from other people. But when it comes to my own gnosis is when I put it out. And if anybody's to get anything from me, I definitely have no problem sharing if I get it from somebody else, who it is. Anybody. There's a lot of great teachers out there that I listen to that I really respect, and I run into new ones, and I'm like, oh gosh, ran into a lot of new music recently that I will be sharing soon. But you guys have a fantastic day. And remember, the return of the feminine aspect is also within you, man, and women. But you, man, you have it too. You guys have a great rest of your evening and day.